Hey friend, welcome to Hypothyroid Chef. I'm Ginny Mahar, your thyroid health and cooking coach. And today I want to talk to you about cooking with fresh herbs. This is one of my absolute favorite thyroid-friendly cooking techniques. Not only because herbs taste delicious, they're just a wonderful way to add flair to your recipes, but they also are like the original aromatherapy. They have immune boosting properties. Some of them support digestion. You know, herbs are some of our original medicines. So it's just a wonderful world of, culinary delights to start cooking with fresh herbs. And I'm gonna take you outside with me today, right here in this bed. This is where most of my fresh herbs grow. And up here, you can see this is more of my veggie garden. I've got some herbs up there too. So we'll go outside, we'll take a little herb garden tour, and I'll show you some of my favorite culinary herbs to cook with. And then I'll show you a little bit just about like tips and tricks for cooking with fresh herbs to make it easier, to make it more affordable, to make it faster and more convenient for you to actually use up the herbs when you buy them, or maybe try growing some at home, or just kind of boosting your recipes with the flavor of fresh herbs. So this is going to be tons of fun. I'm also going to demonstrate a couple different recipes for you today, just some quick and simple things using fruit of all things paired with fresh herbs. So let's get started. We'll go out to the garden and then we'll come back to the kitchen and get cooking. All right, so here we are. This is my herb garden. I'm not the best gardener, but I enjoy it. So you'll see, a little bit of what you can grow and just how easy it can be to grow your own herbs. I love my herb garden. We live in Montana, so much of the year this is under snow and I can't use it. And at the end of the summer, I start to mourn the loss of the herb garden, to winter weather, because it's so wonderful to just make a quick meal in the summertime, come out here, snip some fresh herbs, throw a marinade together, throw a salad dressing together, and dinner is served. So the other thing I really like about herb gardening is that a lot of these are perennials, meaning they come back year after year. Like these chives here, I planted 10 years ago. It probably cost, less than $10. I got 4 little pots, planted them. They come back every year. These also make really beautiful, light lavender flowers that are really pretty. You can, sprinkle those in different foods. So that's really fun. One thing I find is that whereas I love growing veggies too, I don't get as much bang for my buck out of my veggie garden. It's more just for fun. Whereas the herb garden absolutely hands down saves me a ton of money, especially when you're buying those, little packets, those plastic packets of fresh herbs that are, a few bucks a pop. So, and then they can be hard to use up too. So this way it's just, if you have a little space, you can even use container gardens. You can grow indoors. There's all kinds of fun little herb garden things you can order online to, grow your own herbs. But I'll show you what I have here. So I've got chives here. These come back every year. Right here is rosemary. So this I have to plant pretty much every year. It doesn't last through the winter here in Montana, but rosemary is wonderful, again, on potatoes. It's great on pork. It's great on chicken. It is one that can be pretty strong, so you don't want to overdo it when it comes to rosemary. I find sometimes less is more with rosemary. This is that pineapple sage. It is edible. I don't know. It's new. I like the color. And then here, we're getting kind of crowded here this time of year, but this is fresh parsley. So this is another annual. So I've got to plant this here every year, but parsley is one of those things you use so much that it is nice to have some in the garden, so I can just walk out the back door and snip some. Mint, I made the mistake of planting mint and mint grows like a weed, so I don't recommend planting mint unless you're going to plant it in a container. So Otherwise, it just grows everywhere. So all summer long, I'm like battling mint, but it's also, you know, as far as weed pulling goes, it's kind of like aromatherapy weed pulling. So that's kind of fun. Our lemon thyme is going gangbusters this year. It's just absolutely huge, and you can see these really pretty, sweet little purple flowers. Those are edible too. Typically with herbs, when they get to the point where they're flowering, it can be a good idea to snip the flowers off just so that they don't go into the seed cycle. That way they might continue to produce tender leaves. Sometimes when herbs and plants go to that seed cycle, things get kind of tough and less edible. Here we've got, I want to say this is just a French thyme. This is a new one I planted called Faustinoy thyme. I like thyme, can you tell? And then this one is just a traditional like English thyme. So, you know, you can smell herbs, you just rub your finger on them and they'll pick up some of the oils, and that'll kind of give you an idea of what they taste like as well. These do water automatically, which is, you know, very convenient so that we can go places in the summer and not worry about the garden dying. My oregano is not looking great, but it is nice in that it comes back year after year. Now, oregano is kind of interesting in that, whereas with a lot of herbs, fresh herbs are stronger than dried herbs. But with oregano, fresh is kind of more mild than dried. So this is actually really fun to play with. You can use like, you know, hefty amounts of fresh oregano. I love it in like a turkey kebab marinade. Just do tons of oregano and garlic. Really, really delicious. And then here is tarragon. So this has these kind of longer leaves. Tarragon is similar to basil, fennel, anise, any of those licoricey tasting herbs. It goes really well with chicken, and this just, I mean, look how big this is. This goes gangbusters every single summer without me having to do a thing. It just comes back every year. And the same goes for this sage. So this is just a traditional sage, and you know, I'll admit I often don't dry my herbs, but it's quite easy to. You just, you know, you snip these and you just hang them to dry somewhere sunny with low moisture, and they'll dry out. You can crumble them, and you know, I mean, this would be more tarragon and sage than I could possibly use in a year right here. So these are just really wonderful to have. I love this in my chicken saltimbocca recipe. Okay, let's go up to the vegetable garden. I'll show you a little bit up there, and I've got a couple more herbs there that we can check out. Okay, here we are at the veggie garden. This is what I call Fort Deer proof. My husband had to build this basically caged garden for me because we have so many deer in our neighborhood. We call them the neighborhood rats. They eat everything. And yeah, you basically have to have your veggies in a cage if you want to be able to harvest anything and save them from the deer. So this is mostly fruits and veggies. I'm growing strawberries this year, rainbow chard. I just love that. Trying to save these Brussels sprouts and broccoli from the cabbage worms. Growing some peppers this year. This is a tomatillo plant. Always got to do a couple different tomatoes. We love these. These are Sun Gold cherry tomatoes. They taste just amazing. And here's one herb. This is fennel. So this is a really, turning out to be a pretty large plant. I haven't grown this before. What I'm growing it for is actually the bulb. So down here, this will turn into like a baseball size bulb, hopefully. And then you can slice that up really thin. You can cook with it, put it in soups. It's wonderful with salmon. It's wonderful with citrus. You can make a fresh fennel salad. But then you can also use these fennel fronds They're very delicate tasting. They don't give a ton of flavor, but fennel is another one of those herbs like tarragon and basil that is in that licorice flavored family. So really wonderful with, gosh, a lot of things. And this is a very medicinal herb in that it really helps with digestion. It's very soothing to the stomach. So Riley loves it when I'm in the garden because she likes to get sugar snap peas. Those are her favorite. You want to pee, baby? Oops. She loves those. I've got green beans going this year. We just had some of those the other night. They were to die for. And then here I've got, well, there's some weeds mixed in, but this is cilantro, also known as coriander. It's kind of going to flower right now. I do try to like trim the flowers off just so I can continue to get more of the cilantro leaf from this before it goes to seed. You could technically harvest and dry and, use the seeds, which are called coriander. So that seed spice coriander is just the seed from the cilantro plant. And this is one of my absolute favorite thyroid-friendly herbs to cook with because it is a natural chelator. Wow, look at the size of that. It's a natural chelator, meaning that it helps the body excrete heavy metals from the body. And heavy metals are a direct health threat to the thyroid. So, we get exposed to heavy metals in our daily life just from like the burning of fossil fuels and coal and all that stuff. So just incorporating more cilantro into your diet is just a simple and delicious way to, help rid your body of any kind of excess heavy metals. It'll help, draw them out because those heavy metals set up in our tissues. It'll help draw those out of the tissues and it helps the body excrete those heavy metals. So love, love, love cilantro. I know some of you out there have that genetic condition where cilantro tastes like soap. So to those of you, I'm sorry, but for the rest of us, it is a really wonderful herb, wonderful in so many different things, especially lots of Mexican cooking. So, okay, so there's the herb garden. Let's go inside and get cooking. All right, here we are back in the kitchen. Let's talk about how to use fresh herbs. So here I've got fresh tarragon, fresh mint, thyme, rosemary, and oregano. And one of the most common mistakes that I see people make when they're using fresh herbs is doing this. They're trying to pick these teeny tiny leaves off one by one. And not only is that annoying and frustrating, it's super time consuming. And one of the best, easiest ways to harvest fresh herbs from the stalk is just to strip them. So you start from the bottom up, and there you go. Now you might notice that you'll get some little bits of stem, and typically if these pieces of stem break off, especially like with thyme, they're tender enough that you can just chop them up and eat them. So that's just fine to, use those. And I'll show you again. Just strip from the bottom up. That's another common mistake. People try to strip from the top down. It doesn't work as well that way. You want to go from the bottom up, and then boom, you've got fresh thyme. And this already just is making my mouth water because it smells so good. I'll demonstrate. You can do the same thing with rosemary. So again, usually this top portion is going to be really soft, and that's okay. You can eat that part of the stem. But I'll just strip down the stem, and then boom, you've got your fresh rosemary leaves. You can do the same with oregano. Chop that up. Also works, of course, really well with mint. Then I'll just usually pull the top leaves off. Oh my gosh, it smells so good in here. It really is, like, this is the original aromatherapy. And we'll do the same with our tarragon. So again, going from the top down, boom, you've got all those leaves. Then I'll often just pick the, the tender ones from the top. So there you have it. We've just harvested all those leaves from 5 different types of herbs in like less than a minute. And if you want, you could save these. You could put these in your, if you have like a stock bag in the freezer with veggie scraps, or, even if maybe your herbs are starting to look a little wilted, maybe you don't want to cook with them or use them fresh, throw them in the stock bag. Especially those that, are going to have more of a mild flavor. Parsley works really well. Thyme works really well. Tarragon works really well for stock. Things like mint, unless you want a minty flavor in your soup, I wouldn't use that. A little bit of oregano and a little bit of rosemary would be okay. But, again, things like rosemary, certain herbs can be more strong tasting. So for soups and things, especially for the stock pot, I typically lean towards those more milder tasting herbs like tarragon, thyme, and parsley. Now, one other mistake that I see people making is they use the wrong knife. This is not a great knife for chopping herbs. This is a great knife for maybe cutting the top off of a strawberry or something, cutting the core out of a tomato or something like that. Those are the kind of tasks that a paring knife is good for. For chopping, especially with fresh herbs, I really like a chef's knife. This is an 8-inch chef's knife, and I'll show you the reason why I like it. We'll start with our tarragon. With herbs, a lot of times the easiest way to chop them is just to do this rock and chop motion. So I've got my hand on the front of the blade, and I can just rock and chop. Maybe I'll kind of reorganize my pile and just keep going until, within a few seconds, those are chopped and ready to go. So you can do the same with your rosemary, your thyme, your oregano, your mint. I will demonstrate another technique. This works. This is called chiffonade. Unfortunately, I don't have any basil on hand right now, but I can show you with these mint leaves. This works really well for basil. Like say you're making some kind of a tomato salad and you want some really pretty ribbons of basil. You can take herbs with larger size leaves like mint or basil, and you just roll them into like a little, kind of like a little mini cigar. And then you can just very gently, thinly use the blade of the knife to thinly slice those. What you'll end up having are these little ribbons that are really pretty. That's called a chiffonade. So yeah, you can either just do the rock and chop, or if you want, you can make ribbons using that chiffonade technique where you roll and slice. Okay, let's put together just a couple really simple, fun recipes. We're actually going to use fruit for both of these. So kind of not something that people always think of with fresh herbs, but I think herbs in so many ways can be underutilized. One of the most underutilized, I think, is mint. Mint goes so well with so many things. It's wonderful in salads. It's wonderful in like a mixed fruit salad with, say, strawberries, nectarines, blueberries. It's wonderful with tomatoes. It can be great in just like an infused water. So we're also going to make an infused water, not with mint, but I'll demonstrate those recipes for you next. Okay, so first we're going to make a super simple dessert. This literally takes about a minute to make. It's balsamic strawberries with mint. This is so surprisingly good. The balsamic and strawberry combination is really, really delicious, and it's just one of those things that can really delight your guests. And it's also a really healthy dessert. There's tons of vitamin C in strawberries. You get your reds, your red foods, and who doesn't love strawberries? So I'm just going to make about 1 serving. I've got about a cup of strawberries here that I've already quartered, and we'll chop up about a teaspoon or so of mint. kind of do that chiffonade technique that I showed you. And just slice this into some really pretty little ribbons. And all we're going to do is add about, to one serving, we'll do about half a teaspoon of balsamic, a little blast of freshly ground pepper. Not too much, but that's actually going to bring out and kind of mellow some of the tart flavors and kind of heighten some of the sweet flavors in the strawberries. And then we'll add our mint. Give that a little toss. And then we can go ahead and give that a taste. This smells so good. I'm telling you, the mint, the pepper, the strawberries, the balsamic, it's so perfect. It makes the strawberries even better than they taste on their own. I absolutely love this. One common question I get with fresh herbs is how do you store them? And one of the best ways I've found to store them is just in a little bit of water. This is just a glass. It's got about 2 inches or so of water in it. And you just stick the herbs in there, just like you would with fresh flowers or something like that. Not only does it look cute, it also really makes the kitchen smell amazing. We're gonna make a really simple fruit-infused water. This is one of my favorite ways to stay hydrated in the summer when water gets a little bit boring, but you know that your hydration needs are higher because, higher temps and maybe some higher activity levels. So we're gonna just make a very simple Rosemary Orange fruit-infused water. So had that handy in my little glass here. The other way that you can store herbs is just in a produce bag. Sometimes people recommend wrapping a damp paper towel around the herbs to keep them moist. But this seems to be the most trusty way I find to keep them fresh the longest. So we've got 1 orange here. I'm going to cut the end off. We don't want to put too much of the rind into our infused water because citrus rind, adds a lot of delicious flavor to the water. It also adds some bitterness. So what I like to do is take about half of this orange and just slice it thinly. So we'll get about, probably 4 slices. And we'll put those into a pitcher. I'm going to remove the seeds here. And then just for a little bit of sweetness, I like to take the rest of the orange and we'll squeeze that into the pitcher. Now with fruit-infused waters, I find that they're best if they're made at least a few hours in advance or if they sit overnight. So you can certainly drink this right away, but you will get a little bit more flavor out of it if you have time to let it rest for a bit. So yeah, the juice of half an orange and the other half of the orange sliced goes into our pitcher. Then we'll just add a couple sprigs of fresh rosemary and fill that with some filtered water. This is the filter that I use. I really like this one because it filters out chlorine and fluoride, both of which are known thyroid disrupting chemicals. Chlorine and fluoride are both in the halogen family, and they can block the uptake of iodine by the thyroid. So it's really important with your water filter to get one that removes both chlorine and fluoride, which are found in a lot of municipal water supplies. And most filter pitchers and countertop pitchers like this do not remove chlorine and fluoride. So that's one thing you want to be aware of when you're selecting your water filter. This is the Epic Pure Filter by Epic Water Filters out of Boulder, Colorado. This model, the Epic Pure, was just rated in 2024. It was rated #1 by the Environmental Working Group. So it's been tested, proven. This is a really solid filter that I like a lot. I have partnered with the people at Epic because I like their water filter to be able to offer you 20% off their products. So if you go to Epic Water Filters and enter the code HYPOCHEF when you're making your purchase, you can get 20% off. So I will put the link for that and that discount code in the show notes for this video. But yeah, that's a common question I get is, what filter do you like to use? And that is, you know, when it comes to thyroid healthy living, eating, and drinking, you know, filtering your water is one of the best ways to really make an impact in how thyroid friendly, you know, what you're putting in your mouth is. We want to try to avoid those chemicals that can be disrupting or suppressive to the thyroid gland if we're dealing with hypothyroidism. So highly recommend the Epic Pure. But yeah, that's it. So we have our orange and rosemary fruit infused water. You can go ahead and just give that a little stir to kind of get things sort of marinating, and in a few hours that'll be absolutely delicious. I'm going to give it a taste right now just to see. I love this combination. Another combination I really like for fruit infused waters is strawberries and mint, or strawberries and basil. That's a really wonderful one. And they're so easy to make. You don't have to use a ton of fruit. I see a lot of videos, you know, like filling the thing with fruit. You don't have to do that. You're not really going to want to eat the fruit probably anyways. The point of infused waters is really to hydrate, to drink more water by flavoring it with natural things instead of artificial things. So a million possibilities you can take with this technique, but fresh herbs are a wonderful way to add to fruit infused waters in a way that's just so delicious. So we'll give this a taste. That is so refreshing. It's like, it tastes like a grown-up drink. Yum. I can't wait to try this in a few hours. It's going to be delicious over some ice. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tour of my herb garden and this little exploration of cooking with fresh herbs, how to use them, how to store them, how to chop them. I hope this has inspired you to use more fresh herbs in your cooking, or maybe even go get a container and try growing some fresh herbs at home. It's so easy to do. It's tons of fun. It's a wonderful way to connect with the food you eat. So thank you so much for watching. The recipes for these I will put in the description along with the product links that we talked about today. I'm Ginny Mahar, the Hypothyroid Chef, wishing you happy cooking, happy thriving, and the best of health. See you next time.